from the moment we've met, you were someone who impressed, and someone who I'm glad to have been, whose career I'm glad to have been able to follow and support. And yeah, you know, I can't say that about a lot of people in our community, but you certainly have been someone that I have always had a special thing for. Not only because she is actually someone who, you look at her, she's a pretty woman, she's a beautiful woman who isn't a mean girl, who's nice, who's compassionate. She could get by on doing so little, given how gorgeous she is, but yet this lady right here, the thing, I mean, it's just, it's inspiring. The fact that given most women that I know who look like you, Salli, don't have to do a damn thing, and most of them sadly don't. And you have consistently put forth a passion to always, you know, move further. And when you made the dance from acting to directing, I remember thinking, smart move, she's expanding her footprint. But to not only do that, not only to say it was something you wanted to do, but to actually do it, I mean, just, we can't celebrate you enough.
Thank you.
So without further ado, we're going to introduce our members on the call today. We have Katia in Philadelphia. We have a strong Chicago crew. Starting with Reggie Pounder in Chicago. We have Rhonda Rasha Penrice from Chicago, but in Atlanta. We have Al McGhee in South Florida, but a Chicago native.
Okay.
We have Carolyn Hinds in Toronto. And we have Ray Cornelius in Atlanta. Salli, meet the members of AAFCA.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited.
So obviously greetings from Chicago, you know, the home of Lab, Kumba Workshops, Free Street Theater, Hyde Park High School, you know, all that stuff. I went to Hyde Park.
My mother went to Hyde Park.
See, there we go. The thing, as we talk about directing, you have worked with a lot of directors and people like Ava, people like Robert Townsend. Talk about what you have learned from those people to go into directing. What little tidbits maybe you've stolen from some of the directors you've worked with?
Honestly, what I've learned the most now that I've been able to, you know, follow in their footsteps is really how hard their job is, and how sometimes you're not really conscious of how much these people have paved the way for you. And so the deeper I get into this game of directing, I realize how hard it must have been for them to get their foot in the door, and how much easier, though it's not easy at all, it has been for me now to do what I'm doing, you know, and how much I would not have been able to do that without them. You know, I was looking at Spike's new film on Netflix, and I was just thinking about how focused he has stayed all these years on how he does his filmmaking, how he, and his conscious choice to always educate while he's entertaining, and how brave that is in this world, you know, because you really, that makes it even harder to get it made and do what you need to do. So more than anything, that's what I've learned. You know, I've been doing this a long time. I've watched like a million directors direct me, and it's been more about choosing the things that I like from different people. And a lot of times the things I don't like, you know, like I don't want a director who directs me like that. I don't want, you know, so I've tried to find like what my style is going to be.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Salli. Ray Cornelius out of Atlanta. We actually met, I want to say 10 years ago now, when you were promoting I Will Follow. You and a young lady that we were not familiar with by the name of Ava DuVernay came by the radio station. And we were so excited to see you, so excited about the film. And man, Ava's career just kind of, took off after that. She did the movie with David Oyelowo and, oh my God, Emirata Coroneldi,
Yeah.
and things just really, really exploded. I wanted to talk to you about your Lena Horne project. I know this is a little different from maybe what some of the others will be talking to you about, but I love that because that's a story that I think we all have been waiting to see, and you really took that by the horns and did that show. Will that be something that will come to the big screen?
I think that eventually I am going to be able to revisit that particular dream in my life. A lot of things got on hold as far as acting for me because I wanted to direct, and I had no idea that as soon as I started, like, I wouldn't be acting anymore for the last few years. Like, it just, when you make a decision on something this big, you kind of have to just focus on that. So I think that's where a little bit of the hiccup happened. It's also, it was some drama with, sometimes you got people who are helping you with things who bring in bad energy and just, honestly mess up some of your dreams, but that doesn't mean it's over. I think that now, the more, then I thought I would have hired someone else to direct it. Now that, and now I'd probably be playing Lena a little older by the time I get to it. But I think it may become this double dream, where I'm actually directing it and starring in it. So, and at the time that was going to be a play. And now it may switch to a film now that, because I used to think that, oh, there's no way I could direct myself and I did it. Now I'm like, yeah, I could do the whole thing. So I think it's just a dream deferred, and we will get to it.
Thank you.
Hey, Salli.
Hi.
How you doing? It's Rhonda. I met you lots of times in the past. But I wanted to talk specifically about making the transition to being a director, especially as Gil described, when you are seen as this, you're seen a lot of times as this gorgeous leading lady. And then how was the transition when people have put you in so many more boxes than, women directors already experience?
Well, I was conscious of the fact that a lot of times, just as actors, people don't take us serious. They're like, ugh, they just want to try this, Again, that's why I decided I couldn't just be acting and directing. The only way people were going to be able to fully embrace that this is like my new path is if I really jumped in and it wasn't dabbling. So, and then I was conscious of that being a woman that is attractive, that as much as that helps you in life, of course, at the same time, coming in that different position, people see you a certain way. They don't necessarily respect your intellect the same way. So when I first started, it's almost like I was going in a part. No makeup, ponytail, baseball hat, jeans, t-shirt, anything to deflect from here. And I think that worked. Now I come and I got my hat, I'm cute. I'm like, I've decided I'm embracing all of my, who I am, my power as a woman. But I think in the beginning, I really felt like I had to go under the radar. But I have to say that the people who first gave me an opportunity are also people I've worked with for years. So they know my personality. They know that if I say I'm going to do this, I've done the things to prep to succeed, and that I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm going to get in there and very competitive, and I'm going to win. And I also find that it's a big, I take this as a big responsibility. Not even half the time, most of the time when I go on to a show to direct, I may be the only woman on that show directing. I'm definitely a lot of times the only Black person. Now I'm the only Black woman. I know that everyone is going to be judged by me, by how I do. If I don't do a fantastic job, the next woman after me, they're going to be like, well, this is how women are. Or, oof, we have one Black lady here. You know, they don't know what they, so I probably am working harder than most, because I just feel like not only can I not let myself down, I can't let all women of color down. And I know I kind of went to a different thing, but I think that I was very lucky that I had worked with not only some Black folks, but some wonderful white producers who really gave me an opportunity. And then I always tell people, and that's why you're always nice with people and respectful to people, because those people are people I just acted with, but they were willing to give me a shot because they always liked working with me and they knew what kind of person I was. And that stuff comes back around to help you.
Thank you.
Hi, Salli, it's Carolyn.
Hi.
So my question has, like, you've been talking about the transition from acting to directing. So my question is more specific with regards to the type of directing you do, which is a lot of the shows that you've directed have been sci-fi and supernatural themed, and you've been in quite a few sci-fi and supernatural shows yourself. A couple being Eureka and Stitchers, which you've been in for a number of years, both respectively. And how has your experience as a Black woman in particular working in that space, especially in sci-fi and supernatural where we tend to be stereotyped, how has that helped you as a director working within the genre itself?
Well, I actually chose those kind of shows for a reason, because we're not normally in that lane. And I wanted to know vis effects. I wanted to do action. I also said, okay, how do I separate myself with learning this skill set? So, but I have to say that I don't feel, and maybe it's because I just go in my own lane and I just ignore things. You know, every once in a while there's one camera operator, or there's always one person who decides that you don't really know what you know, or they think you just there because you're a Black woman and they had to fill that hole. And maybe in the beginning that was true, you know, but I just had my blinders, you know, I'm going forward here. And I think that after being in so many sci-fi shows as an actress, I get it. You know, if you've acted in it, I know what a green screen is. I know what our process is. I've seen it for years and years and years. So it naturally fell in for me. But I have really learned that when people see that you know what you're doing, everybody relaxes and they don't give you much of a problem. And I have learned the people skill of how do I get along with you. I can see you're a little defensive. How do I massage you to get on my team? And if I can't, and you still being disrespectful, how do I respectfully knock you down so that you shut up and you listen to what, you know, but how do I do that? Because it is a balancing act. How do I do that without, you know, sounding like the crazy Black woman, you know, that they're going to think in your head? So what are all these different, sometimes I'm mother, sometimes I'm sister, sometimes I'm, you know, and that's what I tell a lot of women directors just in general. It's okay to embrace your full womanhood as a director. Don't try to hide it. Don't try to do, because we as women have different tools in our chest that we can use to be successful. And some of that is being a woman and talking to men, because it's mostly men there. So how do we work with men all the time in our lives? And I've just embraced what that means. I know I'm going in different directions, but I don't feel like I have gotten that much pushback in this lane. And it's really down to the amount of work I've done and that I do it well. If you do a good job, people respect it and they leave you alone.
Hi, Salli, Katia here. I was watching, I want to say it was on TV One, and I'm not going to say Unsung, but you, it was about a little bit about your career, and you were mentioning how as you were getting older, the roles were not as available to you. And it seems even for Black men, there is a plethora of roles to play, even if it's a smaller part, but it's in a great movie. What do you think we need to do to open up the conversation? Because a lot of us feel that we're getting better as we're getting older. We have, obviously there are older people in the world. So why is it that when we look on the screen, we don't see stories about older Black women, and not necessarily all being is, if it is, there's trauma and
Right.
woes, you know what I mean? Why don't we get to see these stories about us conquering the world?
Well, I don't even know, honestly, is that's just a natural phenomenon for all women. They don't really care about our stories as we get older. So I don't even know. I mean, it's all women in general, but then of course it's going to be worse for us because there's going to be less work anyway. I think that a lot of things are changing now that we're having more people of color in general, but more women in the writer's room who are writing these stories. And at the end of the day, like, I wish I was a writer, that is the power position in TV and movies, writing our own content and our own stories. And that is where I think that, like with Ava, or Lena, the more we are in control of the narrative and we get in those positions and then we start pulling people along with us, the more we're going to see different stories told. And the more we have an opportunity to see, younger, older, all those different things. So I think it's just ageism anyway. But I think the more we have control of the narrative, which I feel like is what's happening, the better it's going to get.
Thank you.
Hello, Salli. This is Al McGhee.
Hey.
I'm from Florida, but from Chicago originally. I'm really excited to meet you. I never met you before, but I've always read about your work and things like that. But I got really excited listening to you talk about Lena Horne. Just short story. I worked with Lena Horne when she did a one-woman show in Chicago in the 80s because I worked for the Schubert organization. And then on Mother's Day, I had my mother to meet her. My mother was very happy. But what are the qualities that Lena Horne has or had, and that you see in her that also you see in yourself? And also, she should tell me stories about her life, how limited her life was because she was a Black woman. So what do you see in her that you see in yourself? And also what do you see in her that you don't see in yourself?
I think as I learned more about her and did my research, I did find that I felt like we were very similar. She was a kind of guy's gal. She was very comfortable with all those men. The girl who hung out. She's super people, and then we have the same. People see this one thing. They see, they saw her. When people see me, they see what they picture as this perfect, pretty thing. But in reality, super chill, super laid back, much more. My husband always says, "You don't understand how dudeish my wife is." That you can kind of go anywhere, and I really think that was Lena. And people didn't know about her humor. She was a funny woman. She could, that. And she was just, one of the guys. I don't know necessarily, because I didn't know her personally, like what our differences are. I just really found a lot of the same things, the having no fear to try new things and go in this lane and really just not giving up. She was probably a little bit more private than I am. But then at the same time, when I look back, I'm pretty private too. You don't see, I'm not the person who's at every event. I'm not, and probably to my detriment, or, I'm not trying to do every Instagram, way to push myself. And I kind of think that that's probably the kind of person she was too, which and sometimes in detriment to, you know, of you accomplishing some of the things that you'd like to do. So I think that I just really, I also connected with her because, like, I was I was a singer when I was younger, and people not having respect for, if you don't like sing like Aretha Franklin in the Black community, then you don't sing, right? And there is different avenues, and people, you start feeling less than, like the talent that is really there that you have, you now shrink because your own community is like, no, that ain't right. You're not. And she had the same thing. You're skinny. You can't really sing. You're this. And I feel like, just like she did, I sort of took some of those things on. But now all of a sudden in my 50s, I have embraced, like, I feel like I have found my voice and my power, and I'm embracing that, just like she did. Once she got, you know, when it was time for that one woman show, in that part of her life, she was fully who she was and embraced it and was okay. And this is who I am. And I kind of feel like I'm in that part of my life now, that this is who I am and I'm cool with it. And I'm also, I was having a conversation during my Bible study, a Bible study on Monday night. And so we were talking about fear of asking God for exactly what you want, and how people, like, you're afraid to really be honest about what you want in your dreams and really asking for it. And I think that she did that, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not afraid to say, God, I'm an amazing director, and I want to film this year. I want to pilot this year. I want this. I want to have my own deal at ABC, or, you know, or any of that. And I'm embracing that. I'm embracing that I'm great, and I think she did. And I've decided that that's just what it is.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate you.
Thank you.
So Salli, I'm upset at Ray because he's like, well, I met you then, and I met you too. See, I don't, it's making me mad. But anyway, you were talking a little earlier about basically being a role model. And when I did meet you, I told you that my daughter, Carrie, she knows where you are, what you're doing. You might not even know she knows where you are and what you're doing, because she knows it all. And she's studying animation, but one of the things that she has looked at is Black women in sci-fi. Mm-hmm. And so you're one of those people for her. So I just wanted to say that you are that role model, and there's people out there who talk about it all the time. I hear your name in my house constantly. But I want to ask you this question about how, as a director, if the writing is the power, how, as a director, do you bring truth to the writing?
Well, I think that, first of all, most of the time I go on things, it's probably a white writer who's written stuff, and then maybe there'll be some Black characters. And what I've been able to do is that I'm just very honest if something doesn't ring true to me, if I'm on a show, or if if unbeknownst to them, they've written something that's a little bit racist, it's a little offensive, and they don't, honestly, I think most of the time, they don't know. They think it's funny. And I'll be like, yeah, it's funny, but let me tell you how I translate what you've just written and what it sounds like to me as a Black woman. And then I don't force anything on people, which is why usually I get the change. I just go, listen, as a viewer, as a Black person, this is what this sounds like to me. And so you can choose to keep it if you'd like. I would change it, but I'm gonna just tell you what it sounds like to me. And I'm very honest about it on every show I go to. And I just say it very plainly like this. I'm not accusing you, or, and they always change it. Always. I'll be like, I wouldn't do that. You can't have your only Black guy say that. And I'm like, that's, I'm just telling you how it sounds. But you need that one voice in the room. And I think that's what we've all been talking about, right? I mean, in politics, anything. Like some of these mistakes that any like politicians will make. Like, did you have anybody in the room? Did you have, and maybe at least two voices, because people have different views on things. Like, did anybody say that maybe you shouldn't say that, or maybe you shouldn't write this? And so what I'm trying to be is at least that one voice in there. And luckily I've gotten to the point now that people really respect my opinion. And there's a way to present it to people that it doesn't sound like an ultimatum, and it makes them want to change it. It makes them, yeah. And that's been on a few shows where I've been like, ding, ding, ding. I don't know if any of you thought about this, but don't sound good to me. And that's how I say it. I'm just saying. So.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Salli, it's Ray again from Atlanta. You mentioned talking to God about your dream projects and saying that this is exactly what you want. Is there a project outside of Lena Horne that you would just really love to get your hands on and direct that maybe just has not afforded itself to you?
I think in my whole life, I've never been, like, even as a role, maybe I need to be more specific. It's not necessarily a particular project. I more look for, because people now are bringing a million things to me. It's more about the quality of the project that I'm looking for. And I actually am attached to a few things that are really amazing stories and stories about Black people that I want to tell. So it's not anything, and I mean, really, besides wanting to tell Lena's story at some point, there's nothing super specific about that. It's just really about looking for quality projects and growing. Like I had a plan to do all these different kinds of TV shows. So I learned all these different skill sets so that now I can do pilots. All right, boom. Full disclosure, I've just booked my first pilot. I can't say what it is yet because they haven't made the announcement, but that was my next goal. Pilot, great. Now, movie, boom. More pilots, deal. And then I can really start picking. So it's been more about what are my goals and going there quickly, because I'm not starting this at 30. So now people are like, why are you so aggressive about it? I'm like, because I'm making up time. I'll have time to be messing around. So that'd be my answer.
Hey, Salli.
Hey.
You talk about being a director as a mother. Like, do you think that informs how you direct, some of the choices that you make, or not?
Well, I'll tell you that it's been hard because I've had to like talk to my kids and go, think that mommy went back to medical school and she's going to be really busy the next few years. I've been gone a lot. It's part of the reason when I first started directing Eureka that I didn't jump right in then because my son was too young. As a director, especially a TV director, I'm gone a lot. So I think it's been an adjustment. The kids were used to me being gone, but there's a difference being gone when you're an actress. You get days off. I can, I'm down these days. I can go home for 4 days. When you're the director, your crew, I have no days off unless I can pop in on the weekend. I can't pop in the weekend from Prague, So it's been an adjustment to be separated from my children so much. I'm so lucky that my husband, Dondre, has been so supportive and has really taken the lead with the kids, because what he's doing right now, he's able to be home more and fulfill, his passion and his dreams. But yeah, it's been hard I never thought I'd be that mom feeling guilty. I'd be like, y'all be fine. You want to go to private school? Mom got to go work, But I do feel I do feel that guilt, you know, of being separated, that I don't know if men feel the exact same way. But at the same time, I think my daughter is learning that she can be a leader. You know, I love it when she comes to set and sees me. And then at the same time, my son hopefully will choose a woman who's independent and does stuff too, so that he's learned what a woman can be, you know, in totality. So, but also on the set, I am very much, my mothering skills work on the set, my micromanaging skills. That's what I say, like embracing my womanhood on the set. I definitely talk, you know, I probably, a few people want to kill me because I'll definitely talk to you like, I'm pretty sure that's what I asked you to do. Nope. Mm-mm. I absolutely told you to do. Now, if you didn't get it done, I'm fine with that, but let's not lie. That's how I talk to, you know, I'll talk to people. No, I don't remember you said that. I'm like, no. I said, we're not going to go there. And I talk very motherly to people. Probably like, you know, the mother who's putting you on punishment. But that's been my experience as a mom, more just the difficulty of being away from home.
Hi, Sally. So my next question kind of goes back to what to your answer for Reggie's, with talking about the power that you have as a director to make suggestions to changes that a writer may have, and you'd be like, this is not the way to go for a Black character.
Right.
But I wanted, you have that power as a director, but as an actress, you don't necessarily have that power. And this has to do with a particular scene that I saw in Stitchers. And there is, in the first season, there's a character played by Tiffany Hinds, Martyr. She's a Black woman. And this scene kind of affected me. And it's like where basically she commits death by suicide by cop. And with everything that's going on now politically, I wanted to ask you, as an actress, were there any moments where you would have seen something like that in the script, and you know that you don't have the power to change what either the writers or the directors have, because they have a particular trajectory they want the plot to go? Like, how does that impact you as an actress, as particularly as a Black woman, where you see these things, you're like, there's nothing you can do, but you just have to like kind of roll with it?
Well, I think you can still speak to certain things. As a guest, I mean, I don't remember the particular episode. For that person as a guest actress, you really don't have much power in that. But people who are series regulars, I find people nowadays speaking up more about things that don't ring true to them, and that they personally find offensive. You know, I've always, if I've been in something and I'd be like, I can't say this. I would never say this, you know. But unfortunately, it is, I mean, I think about through my years of being on shows, and I think a lot of actors have been talking about this now, like if it's a white lead, you're afraid sometimes to stand up, because and it may not be true today as much, but I'd be like, they just fire me and get another Black girl to replace me. So you do have that trepidation to speak up. But I think that if we all keep marching, keep doing what we're doing and laying our demands down to the unions and producers, we can find more of a voice to say, this is wrong, I'm not saying that. But yeah, it's a hard, only the regulars really have an opportunity to say stuff like that and say, I'm not doing that. When you come in and you're just trying to get a gig, either you know what the job is, don't audition then, you know. I know that I would love to get a better answer than that, but I think that the more we're coming together now, the better.
Sally, one of the things I do want to talk to you about, and you hinted it on a little bit, you know, as working women, as mom, I have it too, the guilt, you know, where you're trying to leave everything as perfect as possible before you go and you do your professional gig. One of the things that I find admirable about you and Dondra, you two have been together, not just together, but successfully married and have your own identities. Talk a little bit about, you know, because you two, and sometimes you work together, you directed him. How do you balance each other's ambitions, but still prioritize your relationship?
I think we're lucky now that because we've been together so long, and now we're getting super busy, that our relationship can withstand the separation. You know, like, this is not something you do at the beginning of your relationship. There's enough trust built up that I can be gone for a few months. We cannot see each other, but everything is going to be okay. But I think that, and our communication now over these years has just evolved. And I mean, I know that sounds like what everyone would say, but it really is about the communication and expressing when things are bothering you and when this doesn't work for you. And hoping, like, you know, when I got home and I'm here for a few months, but then his book release is coming out, now I can really try to give back to him. Honey, you know, he's setting up for his interviews. And, you know, it's like, well, honey, how can I help you get ready for this interview you have to do? Do I need to give you water? Let me check the light, you know, just trying to support each other in whatever you know, we're doing. And luckily, it's not bumping heads. You know, his purpose book, you know, with his book and all this, it's behind me, is completely different than really what I'm doing now. So I think it's actually good. There's no competition anymore. It's not like two actors and who's working the most. It's really, we've been able to find new goals and keep moving with each other. And I think it's really God and communication and children. I think that our children are very happy, and neither of us want to change that for them. So our goal is to stay together no matter what. I don't know about other people who have gotten married, but my parents, I knew from the very beginning, when you get married, this is not going to be an easy road. And you should not be getting married thinking it's about to be easy. It's going to be really hard to stay together. And we try our best to work hard on doing that.
No, absolutely, 1000%. Thank you.
Hello, Salli. This is Al McGhee again. Have you had to talk with your children about what's going on with the protests and also with the death of Mr. Floyd? And also, do you feel that now when you get back to work, will you be limited on the work you do, or it's going to open up for you?
Of course, I've had the conversation with my kids. We even went and marched. You know, I was like, I really wanted to, even with COVID going on, we found this good youth march out here in the valleys, because I did not want my children to miss this moment in time to experience being out there in the streets and fighting for, you know, equality. But I wanted to find a way where, you know, then we didn't all come home and get sick. So absolutely. My husband is obsessed with every documentary ever made. So with my son, who's 11, that's kind of their thing. They sit around, they just watched I'm Not Your Negro. They watch every single documentary, and Dondre stops and breaks down what this means and what this is about. I also have my cousins in Chicago. We do a Zoom call once a week, and with my son now, and it's about a new African-American hero besides Martin Luther King Jr., which is, you know, the only person I'm gonna tell you about in school. So that he can bond with his cousins in Chicago and also learn about new African-American heroes. And they do worksheets on it and they discuss it. So that's kind of our, you know, our supplemental learning for them that they're not going to get in school. So I want my kids, you know, to know that they are Black people. And though, you know, they're little fair-skinned little kids, that don't mean nothing, you know. In one day they're going to bump up against it. So my kids are definitely aware. We go over my son, what happens at the police, and he's like, yeah, I know, Dad is taking me through the steps, Mom, you know. So definitely, absolutely. Now, what was the other part of the conversation? Oh, I have so much work coming at me right now during this break that I am figuring out decisions of what I'm going to do. So if anything, it's already been a great time for me. Things are just exploding. It's a bit stressful because, you know, I now understand why these people go crazy. Like, you know, why Britney Spears go shave her head, or, you know, why, like, it is over. When you start getting the things that you've asked for, that's even more pressure. Success is a lot of work to stay there and to grow. And you may have had fear in the beginning about wanting to do a good job because it's new. That fear doesn't go away for every new project, which is good. If you're not scared about anything, then it's boring, you know. But yeah, it's a lot of stress right now and a lot of decisions, but it's a lot of great opportunities. And it really, like I said, it comes down to, if you do good work, people want to work with you. If you get along with people, people want to work with you. And all of those things are coming together for me.
Well, just to follow up, with everything going on, did that change your way of thinking about what's going on with the protests and everything like that? Did they change your attitude or anything like that?
About work?
Yeah, about work, especially what's going on in the street in the United States today with the protests and everything like that.
Well, I don't think it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed the way I think about work. I mean, I got to work, you know, I got to pay my bills, but it is, there are the particular projects, and one in particular that I'm working on, I do feel a bigger sense of responsibility for the content of what we're putting out. And not everything is going to be motivated. You know, we still going to have to do our gangs, and, you know, just like the Italians still want to do their mob movies, but how can we do that same thing, but color it enough that it's responsible? You know, there's a way for us to tell our inner city stories, which may be selling, you know, maybe selling drugs or something like that, but to make sure that we humanize these Black characters so that you're not just a drug dealer. We understand, and that doesn't mean by hitting you over the head with a lesson, but we understand why maybe these characters had to make those choices, because this is what was offered to them in this community. And if it had not been for where they were, and they could have gone to Princeton, they would have run a big company. Well, this is the company that they're running because of certain, you know. So I think that with anything, it's just trying to be more responsible, try to hire as many Black folks as I can on my crew. As much, you know, of course, I may not have all that power yet, but exerting as much as I can, and then know that as my projects grow, I can demand more. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know what I want to talk to you about is your cooking. Salli has become, has been demonstrating her prowess at her culinary abilities. And so, talk about cooking, talk about, I'm sure you must find it relaxing. You must watching you, I see the joy, I can feel it almost, that you are experiencing as you're figuring out different ingredients and spices and whatnot. So tell us about that.
I honestly have always loved cooking, and I think it's that I like to take care of people. So this will tell you about, all my friends know I cook. Thanksgiving, I got about 30 people who come over. This last Thanksgiving, our kitchen was being remodeled, and I was out of town, and my friends kept calling me like, "You doing Thanksgiving? You doing Thanksgiving?" And I go, "I can't. I don't know if I'll even be in town." The kitchen, I had people going, "Well, you know, we could just get an Airbnb house for a day or two for the holiday so you can cook for us." So it's not just me who likes to cook. My friends love my food. But I grew up, my grandmother's from Tupelo, Mississippi. I was the person, like my mother she's a good cook, but didn't really love it anymore. So I took off, and my uncle was a chef. So I took off from where my grandmother did. I was the one who made sure, as I saw my grandmother getting older, she had certain recipes that I said, I'm gonna make sure I know all of grandma's recipes. And I sit there and I cook it with her because it's the only way it's gonna get passed on. So, when you saw me making them white beans and making string beans at Christmas, my grandmother's cornbread dressing, all of that is stuff. Because my uncle, because he's a chef, he'd be trying to put oysters. And I said, listen, we're not putting no oysters in my grandmother's cornbread dressing. We making it exactly like he trying to, or my husband's like, why do you toast your own bread? Oh, you could just buy. No, I got to toast my bread. That's what my grandmother did, So, but now we're vegetarian, right? So now I realize that I can make anything if I find it in a recipe book. And then, of course, then I just add anything else. I'm like, oh, it's 2 cloves of garlic. We need 6 cloves of garlic. I know, because I'm going to season it differently. I kind of use that as my guide. But I love to feed my family. It's the one thing when you talk about being a mom and being gone, I miss cooking for my family so much because then I know they're getting good food that is prepared for them with love. So when I get home, that's what you see. I haven't been home all year. Now I'm home and I get to just flood them with food. That's all, I'm telling you, that's all I do here all day. I wake up in the morning, my son, I'm like, what do you want, honey? Avocado toast. So I'm making my son avocado toast in the morning. At lunch, I'm making a new quinoa salad for them because it's my way of showing them that I love them, honestly. I miss, when I'm gone, that's the one thing I worry about the most. What are y'all eating when mama's not there?
And final question, what are your thoughts about, we spoke to Dondre recently. What are your thoughts about the powerful messages in his book, Male versus Man?
It's so funny. I had to, sometimes we were like button heads, with the kids and stuff, because he's like, I have to take control of this. And it's hard for us as women to set back a little bit too and let our men do what they need to do. My parents were divorced. My dad was still around, but they were divorced. And I'm used to hearing a woman's voice. I'm used to like not listening to men like, I'll need you to do this. And I've really had to learn from my husband that I need him. I need him to be the other side of this. And I think that I love his book. I think that he's right. That we need our men. And that doesn't mean that my mother raising my brother on her own, there's nothing she could do about that, right? That's a situation that she was in. But we do need to try to find that male figure to come in too, because sometimes my husband and I will argue about my daughter, and I know for sure that he can't teach her the stuff I'm teaching my daughter. So what in the world is making me think that I can teach certain things to my son, but there's some things I can't tell my son how to do because I'm not a man. There's some things my son right now just will not listen to me about certain things. And I just go, okay, I walk away. I go, Dondre, listen, I need him to do this and this and this, and I need you to tell him to do it because he's just blocking me out. Dad can go tell him the same thing, exact same thing. He's like, okay, he's right on it. So we as women need to be open that we can't do everything. And that's okay. And it's okay if we need to find someone, a brother, an uncle, a good friend, the coach, some other male figure to round out that energy. And it's not about women, it's just about teaching them how to be a man. It is what it is. And, you know, I know some women somehow push back on that. I did for a second, but I understand my husband's point of view.
Thank you. Thank you for being a strong enough Black woman to allow your man to be a strong Black man. Because we know that, as you spoke on it, that can be a problem in relationships, particularly in our community. But it's wonderful seeing you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And look forward to hopefully not in the distant future seeing you in person. But until
I'm ready for our big party. I keep missing it. I'm either gone and then now.
That's because you're working.
Get down. I know, but you know, that's the fun part. We get to, you know, we miss.
Right. But no, take care, and I will be touching base. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.